Hey, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt uncomfortable just for wanting more money? Or caught yourself thinking that money somehow makes people worse? If so, you're not alone. Most of us learn how to think about money long before we ever learn how to manage it. And that relationship doesn't start with numbers, it starts with beliefs. Because learning how to deal with money is a lot like learning how to walk. You don't just stand up and start running. You take small steps. You fall. You learn from the fall. And then you try again. Before we go any further, I want to be clear about one thing. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not a finance professional. What I share here is simply what I've been learning through life, along with insights from the time I dedicate to reading and researching this topic. The belief that money is bad. Imagine learning how to walk. You don't just stand up and start running, right? First you take small steps, maybe you fall, you learn from the fall, and then you try again. Building a healthy relationship with money works the same way, it's a skill you learn over time. But for many of us, that journey is sabotaged right at the start by a deeply ingrained belief, the idea that money is somehow bad. If your mindset is, I'm not good with money, you're already setting yourself up for failure. That single thought can stop you from taking even the most basic financial steps, leaving you frozen by the belief that you're incapable. Your confidence disappears before you even begin. And yet, here's the truth, you can love money or hate it, but it's almost impossible to be indifferent to it. Whether it's the frustration of credit card debt, the convenience of using a debit card, the desire to see more greenbacks in your account, or the exhaustion of working yourself to the bone for a paycheck, money plays a critical role in our well-being, or in the lack of it. So it's no surprise that it triggers such strong emotions. Many of us carry negative opinions about money without even realizing it. You've probably heard phrases like, money is the root of all evil, or rich people are greedy. These beliefs, often absorbed during childhood, quietly shape how we earn, spend, and save, and rarely in a positive way. Let's clear up a common misunderstanding. The famous phrase, money is the root of all evil, is actually a misquote. The original biblical verse warns against the love of money, not money itself. That distinction matters. The warning is about placing wealth above values like honesty and compassion, which can lead to corruption. While the phrase has religious roots, distrust toward money and those who have it echoes across culture, from movements like Occupy Wall Street to broader critiques of capitalism. On top of that, our perception is constantly shaped by sensational stories. Large-scale financial fraud makes headlines, while the slow, quiet, and disciplined building of personal wealth almost never does. That imbalance creates a distorted picture of what money really represents. Throughout life, we move through different stages in our relationship with money, from ignorance to fantasy, then to alienation and anger, and if we're lucky, eventually to acceptance and a healthier partnership. Our emotions, especially fear and anxiety, often drive our financial decisions, holding us back from taking action. Maybe you feel like you're not good enough to be financially successful. That mindset, often rooted in low self-esteem, can stop you from applying for promotions, negotiating your salary, or even considering investments. It's crucial to separate your self-worth from your financial outcomes. Everyone has the potential to build security. Think back to your earliest experiences. How did your family talk about money? Was it a source of stress and worry, or was it seen as a tool for freedom and opportunity? Understanding these childhood patterns is the first step toward rewriting your current financial script. Face your fears head-on. If investing scares you, ask yourself what exactly triggers that fear. Is it the fear of losing money, or something deeper, like the belief that you don't deserve more? Identifying and confronting these emotions is essential if you want to move past them. Of course, money alone doesn't buy happiness. But it does buy security, it opens doors to meaningful experiences, and it gives you freedom of choice. Dismissing money as something unimportant means giving up the chance to improve your quality of life, and the lives of the people you care about. Research published in the Journal of Financial Therapy identifies 4 problematic money attitudes that can be especially harmful. 1 is avoidance. Believing money is bad or that you don't deserve it, often accompanied by fear, anxiety, or even disgust. Another is adoration, believing that more income will solve all your problems, a mindset frequently tied to debt. Then there's status, where self-worth is directly linked to net worth and validation is sought through consumption. And finally, excessive vigilance, being so secretive and cautious with money that you never allow yourself to enjoy what you've built, like a modern-day Scrooge. At the end of the day, life is about seeking good feelings and avoiding bad ones. Our beliefs create our thoughts and emotions, which then guide our actions. And it's our financial actions that determine our results. The equation is simple: if you don't like the results you're getting, examine your thoughts. Our actions tend to reinforce our beliefs, because as humans, we love being right. If you believe, "I'm bad with money," every small mistake becomes proof, pushing you to quit before you've truly tried. Breaking that cycle starts with a single step: questioning the idea that money is your enemy, and choosing to see it instead as a neutral, powerful tool for building the life you want. How this belief quietly sabotages you. Let's talk about the real silent saboteur of your financial life. When we think about why money feels so difficult, we usually point to things like a low salary, lack of opportunities, or the rising cost of living. And while those challenges are very real, there's a subtler and far more powerful force at work, one we often overlook: the psychology of money. It all starts with our unconscious money scripts. Each of us carries internal stories and beliefs about money, shaped by experiences that go all the way back to childhood. A casual comment from a parent, a sense of scarcity during our teenage years, or a financial trauma in the family. All of it quietly writes a script that later guides our adult behavior. One of the most paralyzing scripts is learned helplessness. It whispers things like, "Why try to build wealth if something or someone will always take it away?" Or, "No one in my family has ever been wealthy, so why would it be different for me?" These thoughts aren't just discouraging, they become self-fulfilling prophecies. They erode confidence and make us build walls long before we face any real obstacle. For many Americans, especially in historically marginalized communities, this narrative is reinforced by a lack of representation. If you've never seen people who look like you living in prosperity, it's easy to start believing that path simply isn't meant for you, feeding a cycle of hopelessness. Another common script, deeply rooted in American consumer culture, is the idea that material possessions equal value and success. We're taught that driving the right car, wearing luxury brands, or projecting a certain image on social media means we've made it. There's nothing wrong with enjoying nice things. The problem starts when appearances are prioritized over financial health, when people live beyond their means just to maintain an image. That's not success. It's a debt trap disguised as status. Here's the liberating truth: money itself is neither good nor bad. It's a neutral tool, but an incredibly powerful one. The real issue is the emotional weight we attach to it: guilt, fear, shame, and a deep sense of unworthiness. These emotions, not math, are what sabotage our efforts. You might push money away by spending impulsively or by undercharging for your work. Or you might cling to it so tightly, driven by fear, that you save obsessively but never allow yourself to enjoy what you've built, like a modern-day miser. Some people even adopt a sense of moral superiority, claiming that chasing money isn't spiritual, while secretly craving the safety and freedom money provides. Change begins with investigation. You have to become a detective in your own financial story. Start by digging into childhood memories. What did you hear about money at home? Was it a source of fear and stress, or a tool for opportunity and freedom? Then look for patterns in your present life. Do you keep repeating the same financial mistakes? Do your debts follow a familiar family storyline? Pay close attention to your emotional reactions. Do certain situations, a coworker's success, an unexpected bill, trigger jealousy, anxiety, or shame? And listen carefully to how you talk about money. Do you avoid the topic altogether? Argue with your partner about finances? Catch yourself saying things like, "I could never have that," or judging people who have more, or less, than you. These clues aren't character flaws, they're signals. They point directly to the roots of negative money beliefs, which usually come from three main sources. First, childhood conditioning, the phrases we heard, like, "money doesn't grow on trees," or the quiet tension around monthly bills, installed our earliest mental programs. Second, social norms. In our culture, talking openly about money is often considered rude or arrogant, and that silence makes us feel alone in our struggles while keeping us from seeking knowledge and support. And third, past experiences. A major financial mistake, crushing debt, or an unexpected loss can leave deep scars, convincing us that we're simply bad with money. When you take the time to identify these patterns, maybe by writing them down in a journal, you bring hidden sabotage out of the darkness of the unconscious and into the light of awareness. And that moment is powerful. Because what becomes conscious can be changed. From there, you can begin rewriting your script, replacing scarcity-driven beliefs with a mindset of possibility, and transforming money from a feared monster into the most useful tool you have for building the life you truly want. Money is a tool, not a moral test. Let's get straight to the point. Is money good or bad? And should you feel guilty for wanting more of it? These questions sit at the heart of an internal conflict many of us carry. To find peace, and real financial progress, we need to dismantle one core belief, the idea that money itself is a moral test. It isn't. Here's the liberating truth: money has no morality. It's neutral. Think of it like electricity. It can power a hospital ICU, or it can be used recklessly and cause harm. The good or the bad isn't in the electricity itself, it's in the intention and actions of the person using it. Money works the same way. We are the ones who attach meaning, emotion, and judgment to it. In everyday life, this perspective can be hard to maintain. As a society, we're hyper-focused on money, and for practical reasons. It's the tool that allows life to function. You need it to pay the mortgage or rent, cover a car loan, handle healthcare costs, or put kids through college. You need it for groceries, insurance, and basic stability. And yes, you need it for experiences too, like traveling with your family or enjoying a simple dinner out without stress. Used intentionally, money genuinely makes life easier, safer, and in many ways, happier. The problem begins when we confuse the tool with the end goal. Chasing more money as a goal in itself is a guaranteed path to endless frustration. There will always be more to want: a nicer car, a bigger house, a more luxurious trip. When the goal is vague and simply to have more, satisfaction always stays just out of reach, and nothing ever feels like enough. So how do you break that cycle? By turning money from the goal into the tool. Try this exercise. Imagine you have unlimited resources. What would you do? Write everything down. Maybe you'd start the business you've always dreamed of, fund a cause you deeply care about, make sure your parents retire comfortably, or simply buy back your time so you can work less and live more. Now look at your list. Chances are, you didn't write, "have more money." That would make as little sense as listing, "buy a hammer," when what you truly want is, "build a house." That's the key insight: money is the hammer, not the house. It's the means to achieve what actually matters to you. Security, freedom, meaningful experiences, and legacy. The next step is turning those dreams into specific financial goals. Take the most important items on your list and ask yourself a few practical questions. What is the real cost of this goal? How long do I want it to take? Given my current situation, is it achievable? And if not, can I adjust the timeline, lower the cost, or change my priorities? This process does something powerful. First, it clarifies what truly matters in your life. Second, it proves, in a very practical way, that money is simply a tool to get you there. Third, it shows that your plans are flexible and can evolve. And finally, it reveals that satisfaction is within reach. It doesn't require endless wealth, just an intentional plan. So the most important question isn't, how do I make more money? It's, what purpose will the money I already have, and the money I will earn, actually serve? When you stop seeing money as a measure of character, and start seeing it as a neutral resource for building the life you want, something shifts. The guilt and discomfort begin to fade. You can finally allow prosperity into your life, not with greed, but with clarity and purpose. You stop being a slave to the endless pursuit of more and become the architect of what enough truly means. And if this perspective is starting to shift the way you see money, don't let it stop here. Take a moment to reflect on how you've been treating money in your own life, not as a moral judgment, but as a tool. If this message resonated with you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might still be trapped in guilt or confusion about money. Your support helps this conversation reach more people who need to hear it. And stay with me, because what comes next is about turning this new mindset into real, practical change. Freedom is the real value of money. Let's talk about the real prize, what all of us are ultimately searching for when we talk about money, freedom. But there's a massive misunderstanding at the core of the American dream that often leads us away from it. We were sold an idea: show up, be disciplined, work diligently at a job you may not even love, and one day you'll be rewarded with wealth and freedom. It's the classic trade-off: sacrifice the present for a promised future. But how many people reach middle age only to realize that promise was false? The daily struggle didn't magically turn into fulfillment. Why? Because discipline is not the same thing as freedom. Discipline is necessary when you're forcing yourself to do something you don't enjoy. True freedom, real wealth, comes from a completely different source: obsession. Work doesn't feel like work when it's what you would still do even if you had $50 million in the bank. It's what you do on weekends purely because you love it. When you're driven by that kind of obsession, by a purpose that gives you energy, discipline stops feeling like a battle. And that's when the magic happens. That's when you start building something meaningful, and yes, profitable. Financial freedom, then, goes far beyond a number in a bank account. It's about your relationship with money and the meaning you give it. In our world, money carries enormous emotional weight. It represents security, fear, status, opportunity, and anxiety. But at its core, money is a neutral tool of exchange. Any power it has is the power we assign to it. So what practical power can we actually reclaim? What real freedoms can a healthy relationship with money buy? The first is time freedom. This means taking ownership of your hours and your days. It's being able to choose between working overtime or reading a book with your children. It's the flexibility to work remotely, start your day later, or spend time on a hobby that restores your energy. It's using time not as a currency you spend just to survive, but as a resource you invest in truly living. The second is location freedom. This goes beyond vacations. It's about where you build your everyday life. Are you stuck in an expensive city simply because that's where the jobs are? Or can you live closer to family, in a smaller community, or even in another country, because your income is no longer tied to a physical office? It's the power to choose the setting of your own life. The third, and deepest, is purpose freedom. This is the ability to align your work with your values. When the pressure of putting food on the table eases, you gain the freedom to pursue work you love, build something you believe in, or dedicate part of your time to a cause greater than yourself. It's the understanding that no paycheck, no matter how large, can compensate for a life filled with unhappiness and lack of meaning. In the end, it all comes down to mindset. Wealth is not a bank balance, it's the feeling of having options. It's the peace that comes from knowing you are the architect of your time, your home, and your impact on the world. Unlocking this kind of wealth begins when you reject the false promise of grinding endlessly and instead tap into the powerful energy of your obsession. When you make that shift, you stop being a slave to the tool and become the master who uses it to build a life that is truly free. Before we wrap up, I want to be clear about one important thing. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not a licensed finance professional. What I share here comes from what I read, what I study, the research I do, and the lessons I've been learning through real life. This channel exists to encourage reflection, discipline, and better questions about money, not to give personalized financial advice. Always take responsibility for your own decisions, do your own research, and use what resonates with you as a starting point, not a rulebook. Money doesn't change people, it reveals them. Let's dismantle one of the biggest myths about money, the idea that it will change who you are. In our culture, there's a fantasy that once money arrives, a new and improved version of ourselves will emerge, more confident, calmer, more generous. But the truth, which many people learn the hard way, is very different. Money is not a character transformer. It's an amplifier. Think of it like a sound system. If what's coming from your heart is anxiety, money just turns up the volume, transforming small worries into major existential crises about investments and net worth. If generosity is part of your nature, money gives you a bigger stage and more resources to practice kindness. And if recklessness is already there, money simply amplifies the consequences, making mistakes far more expensive. No one warns us that money is a mirror. And often it reflects an image we don't like. The person you are before having money is the exact same person you'll be after having it. The only difference is that all your traits, the good and the bad, become more visible, because you now have more resources to express them. There's a Yoruba proverb that says, "A poor man is displaying another man's character." The meaning is powerful. True humility is only confirmed when someone gains access to wealth and still remains humble. Money, like power, is intoxicating. Even the scent of it can bring out the worst in people. It doesn't create greed or generosity, it simply reveals what was already there. If you're expecting financial success to be a miracle cure for your insecurities, prepare to be disappointed. In reality, the opposite happens. Problems don't disappear, they just change clothes. Anxiety about paying rent can turn into anxiety about optimizing investments. Comparing yourself to coworkers who earn more can evolve into comparing yourself to billionaires with unicorn startups. Your inner critic doesn't go away, it just learns a more sophisticated vocabulary. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a time when I believed that a major material achievement would fill an inner void. The excitement lasted a few days, and then the emptiness came back, louder than before, because now I had less money in my account to distract myself. That's when it hit me, the problem was never the lack of money, but how I was using it to avoid dealing with feelings I didn't want to face. Money became a magnifying glass. It amplified everything, my good habits, my self-destructive patterns, the fears I thought I had overcome, and the strengths I still didn't fully trust. When I was generous, it magnified the joy that generosity brought me. When I was selfish, it made that selfishness impossible to ignore. There was nowhere left to hide. So the core lesson is this: build character before you build wealth. If you expect success to fix you, you're aiming at the wrong target. Do the inner work now. Live with intention. Lead with ethics. Practice generosity even when you have little. Because the size of your bank account will never outgrow the size of your values. In the end, money doesn't define you. It only turns up the volume on who you already are. And if you don't like the music you're hearing, the problem isn't the speaker. It's the source. Real change starts from the inside out, not in your wallet. Money is not your enemy, and it's not your identity. It's a tool, and a mirror. When you change your beliefs, the way money shows up in your life starts to change too. Believing that money is bad doesn't make you better. It just keeps you stuck. Real progress begins when you stop treating money as a moral test and start using it intentionally to buy time, create options, and build a life that feels truly free. If this video made you reflect, support the channel by liking and subscribing. And leave a comment below, what belief about money has shaped your life the most? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.